Back in July, I decided to do a 2-week travel nursing assignment up north in Canada as I looked for a job that made me feel fulfilled. If you were one of those people in the pandemic, I'm sure you know the feeling of lacking a sense of fulfillment in the work that you do. You feel like you're alive, but you're not really living. You're making money, but not really making a difference. You want to do something else, but you're not really sure what else you could do because you're trapped with the degree that you graduated with. Knowing myself, I knew I couldn't live this way. I knew that I had to keep moving until I felt a sense of fulfillment. I didn't know I'd feel fulfilled in this job, let alone in 2 weeks. But spending 2 weeks in a remote community where I lacked things like good coffee, good restaurants, and even good Wi-Fi, I was able to find a sense of inner peace, fulfillment, and happiness. It was something that I was craving for a very long time. So in today's video, I'd like to explore what you really need in order to feel fulfilled so that you can stop chasing ambitious goals that aren't even yours. So I used to believe for a very long time, in the past 2 years actually, that the only way that you can feel fulfilled was to be your own boss. After all, that's what social media has been kind of feeding all of us with all the ads, the TikTok, the Instagram, where you have to be your own boss in order to feel fulfilled. So I tried to actually do the whole become your own boss by becoming a freelance writer. But it turns out turning your passion into a money-making machine doesn't work for everyone, including myself. And I actually made a video about this, which I will link somewhere in the screen. So I tried to become my own boss. It wasn't working out for me, and I didn't want to go back to my previous job, so I was kind of in this limbo. So for 2022, I decided to kind of have an open mind, and I said that I would try everything from doing content creation to doing nursing and everything in between so that I can kind of have a sense of what do I really like and what do I really want to do. So I knew that I loved doing content creation, but for now I wanted to keep it as a hobby, or a serious hobby as possible, where I do it consistently, but I not necessarily try to make money of it right away so that it would not take the joy out of it. I also knew that I love being an emergency nurse. I love the action, I love the adrenaline that comes with it, but I knew I didn't want to go back to the hospital that I was working at. So when this new opportunity of doing travel nursing in a different community, or specifically a remote community, I kind of just knew that I had to try it. I've been contemplating for it for about 6 months to a year now, and so I just kind of decided, you know what, nothing else is going on in my life besides YouTube, so let me just try it out. And it turns out it was one of the best experiences that I've had, that I would ever have, because I hadn't feel fulfilled in a very long time the way that I did when I worked up north. What I mean by that is that because of the healthcare settings up north, where there's no doctors, there's just nurses, there's no pharmacies, there's no one except for nurses. So a lot of the people in the population or in the community relied a lot on nurses, and to me that gave me a lot of autonomy and independence and a feel of responsibility, where I didn't feel like I was just another body in the hospital. I was there because I was needed. Most of the time on night shifts there would only be 2 nurses working, so we wouldn't actually get our breaks, and I was not used to that because there was someone always replacing me in an old hospital. But in here you were the only person that people could rely on, so it felt nice to be needed in some sense, and I really like it, the whole experience. I remember making a wish list of a job that I want, and I said I wanted a job that compensated me well. I wanted a job that people that I served respected me, so the patients or whoever else, you know, that I was working for. I wanted a job that where my colleagues respected me. And it seems very basic, but unfortunately not all jobs are like that, right? You somehow get 2 or the other where you get compensated well, but the work is boring and you're not really learning much and all of that. But this job, the only downside was that I was away from my husband and away from my family, but everything else checked off. So I was getting paid well. I loved the work that I was doing. The people that I was serving respected nurses, and the people, that facility itself, you know, like they were glad that we were there as helping nurses. So if you feel like you're currently unhappy with your situation right now, whether that's your life or your job, I feel like it helps to kind of open your mind mind to different opportunities or different experiences that you might not have explored yet or thought of. Give yourself the permission to experience them. So I thought I was done with nursing. I wanted to close the doors, but then I kind of let myself be. What if there is something out there that you like, and what if something out there that works out for you? But don't just close the doors on anything, right? That's kind of what I learned when I tried this whole become your own boss thing, where they said, hey, you have to like take the leap, close everything, and then move forward. Where I think there's some sort of middleman if you don't really like going into the extremes, where you kind of find a stable job and then do your girl boss thing on the side while you're stable in your current job, because you wouldn't actually have to be worried about the money all the time, which is kind of my philosophy right now. So your passion does not have to be your job, but you do have to like the job that you're working at, whether that's being your own boss or, you know, just a typical job where you're working for someone else, because there's nothing wrong with that. So something that I struggled a lot with when I left my emergency job was that, who am I without this title? Who am I if I'm not working as a nurse? But it turns out that letting go of that kind of identity was one of the best things, if not most important thing, that I could have done for myself, because letting go of that identity meant that I could create different kinds of identities. So when I didn't have my hospital job, I was doing all sorts of things. Like I was doing writing on the internet, I was making YouTube videos, and I was focusing on deepening my relationships with the people around me. So I was kind of Jerine the writer, Jerine the YouTuber, Jerine the wife, Jerine the sister, Jerine the daughter. So I was kind of having this different hats in my own life without Jerine the nurse. And to me that was so important, because I felt like I made myself whole again without a job, without associating my identity to a job. And I think that is so powerful, because a lot of us probably cannot have our own identities without our work title. I feel, at least, that a lot of us feel that way, where you don't know who you are without your job description, and I don't think I want to live that way. So it was kind of really good for me to experience that, and that ultimately made me define work in a different way. So I chose to go back to doing nursing, because now I gave work a new definition. To me now, I will work as a nurse so that I can fund the life that I want, which is I want more time with my family. I want time to be able to create content in my own way that I don't have to worry about money. And in order for that to happen, I need some sort of money, right? And I can't expect to do creative stuff all the time without worrying about money, because that's just not sustainable at all. So, and doing it this way made me feel more excited about the job that I'm doing, because, you know, hey, I'm excited to make money, and the money that I'm gonna make is going to like my travel fund, my content creation fund, and all these stuff that I really want my life to look. So it's not really associated with I need to make money for the sake of making money. Now it has a definition that I want, that I'm more motivated to pursue. So right now I'll actually be out of work for 2 to 3 months, and I'm totally okay with that, because I know that I can always find work as a nurse. We have such a great demand right now that I need to be able to almost take advantage of this opportunity. Obviously this isn't something that I take granted for. I actually am very grateful for this opportunity where I am able to take off work so that I can pour my heart out into content creation and make videos where I can kind of help people see the best in themselves, and that they can pursue their own dreams, because that's kind of what I'm doing, and that's really what I want to show. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are confused about who you are, or you don't know what's the role of your work in your own life, is that figure out who you are without your work. Figure out who Jane is or John is without your work. What is Jane's exercise regimen when she wakes up? What does Jane do for fun when no one's looking around? What does she like to eat, or what does she like to do on like Friday evenings if her friends or family didn't care? Or what would she be doing for work if her friends and family didn't care what she was doing? What would she do if money was not an issue? So these are just some of the questions that you can start asking yourself when it comes to letting go of who you are and what you do for work, and make them a separate thing. So another reason that I went on that trip was because I was having a lot of anxiety when it comes to making a very big decisions. I was not sure if I wanted to stay in Canada and kind of do travel nursing here, or if I wanted to fly out to the US and do travel nursing there, and I actually got my license processed. And my thought process was that I thought that if I go to the US, I would make more money, I'd see more places, and I would feel more fulfilled. But doing this remote community work for 2 weeks, I actually felt that fulfillment that I was craving for. And it made me realize that fulfillment is not an external thing. It doesn't matter whether you change your environment or you kind of stay in your job or change your new job. It has to come from within. So even though I don't know how nursing is like in the US, I knew that going through the process of changing my lifestyle, so changing my whole career, learning a new healthcare system, figuring out the medical stuff of nursing or healthcare in general, was going to create sort of internal chaos. Finding places to live, planning a trip, and all of that was just going to create some internal chaos that I wasn't looking forward to experiencing, because it's not that I'm staying in my comfort zone. It's not about that at all. It's just I like to push myself out of comfort zones that where I know I'm going to enjoy it. And so for example, this remote community, I was like 2 weeks in a remote community is way out of my comfort zone, but it is something that I am happy to experience. But doing a 3-month contract in the US where I have no idea how people are going to treat me, and I have to learn everything I know about nursing again, maybe, I don't know. It was kind of giving me this anxiety that I don't know if that's worth it, especially with my values and dreams and goals. It was not aligning, which is why I felt like it was creating that internal anxiety. So even though I'm not 100% sure on my decision, I am getting closer there, and did a lot of thought work or journaling or reflection when I did my assignment in up north, because I had plenty of time to think. So yeah, I think I'm closer to a decision just because I like to keep my options open. I don't want to say this is what I'm doing, even though I probably should. I could probably benefit with that kind of thinking, but whatever. So in the end, I kind of realized that chasing different opportunities wouldn't lead to some sort of fulfillment. Instead, it really comes from like figuring out what you really need right now and how do you actually make that into a reality. So if that's a job where it's paying better, or it's a job that's going to make you feel fulfilled in some sense, figure out how to make that happen for yourself. So I realized that chasing different opportunities really wouldn't give me fulfillment. Rather, it's about learning how to be content with what I have right now. So having this casual / temporary / contract work is something that I'm kind of really happy with, because then I have more time to do this creative stuff that I want, and also be able to travel without asking for my boss if I can take this how many weeks off. And so even though I say that it's an internal work, obviously changing your external environment, it's some capacity works, but it's very temporary. Ultimately, it is really up to you to kind of change how you feel inside, so that you can, despite of what's going on outside. And I'm sure if you're into self-help, you've probably heard this a lot, but our thoughts have a lot of weight into the way we see the world. So if you think you're going to be happy, you're going to be happy. If you think you're going to be sad, you're going to be sad. And it's kind of an ongoing process or ongoing journey that you're going to have to go through if you really want to kind of see your dreams come true, as cliche as that may sound. So I guess the whole point of this video is really to make you realize that you really don't need much in life. You do need a work that you enjoy. You need a strong sense of self, so being really comfortable with who you are. And third, you need to realize that fulfillment or happiness or inner peace, that all comes from within. It's work that you have to do. I'm not saying that any of this is going to be easy. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. Is that I'm saying that you don't need much, but if you do work on these 3 things, that, you know, for a few months, for a few years, you might actually feel the difference when it comes to showing up for the world. And finally, I hope that this video resonated with you, and I hope that you be kind to yourself and take it one day at a time. Bye.